want to talk about 4 key points of my recovery. These 4 points that I'm going to talk about were the most important, I guess, biggest cornerstone, turning points of the whole process. Okay, I will start with seeking it out and seeking help out and paying for it myself. So 3 years ago, when I finally reached the breaking point in my eating disorder, and I was just miserable beyond miserable, I knew that nothing I had been doing up to that point had been working, and that if I wanted to see actual change and actual progress and actually a different outcome than I've been seeing that whole entire time up until then, I was going to have to do something different. And no matter how scary it was, no matter how anxious it made me feel, I knew that I had to ask someone outside of my little narrow existence for help. And I knew how expensive treatment is. I also knew that having someone else pay for something makes it less personal to you, I guess. Like, you don't have as much invested in it, so you don't really care as much. So it was really important that I actually footed the bill, which I did. So I was really afraid that my insurance wasn't going to cover treatment. I didn't want to do inpatient treatment, anything like that, because that was actually more like triggering for me than helpful. And that was, I think, just out of the question when it comes to like being able to afford it. So I sought out intensive outpatient IOP programs in my area, and I found one, and it took me like 3 days to finally gather the courage to actually pick up my phone and call them. But I did, and I left a voicemail and they called me back, and I actually took like 3 calls on their part for me to actually pick up the phone, because I was so just afraid and to talk to anyone about this looming problem. Like, I was almost embarrassed to and in denial that that was my life. I don't know if that's putting it right. Once I finally talked to this person, it was totally easy talking to them on the phone, totally easy, just like they deal with this stuff every single day. There's nothing to be embarrassed about or ashamed about or anything like that. There's nothing you can say that will surprise them, although during the course of treatment I did say a few things that probably surprised them, so. But it's a totally non-judgmental, not anything like that atmosphere. Came in for an appointment like 2 days later, and the following week I was already in the program. They had dealt with the insurance covered everything, and they offered me a sliding scale payment option for co-pays because they were still a little too high for me, but they basically worked with me, and the fact that this copay was coming out of my own pocket every single time really ensured that I was paying attention, doing whatever they were telling me to do, and not wasting my own money. Because when it's your own money that you're potentially wasting, it's a huge motivator to actually, you know, get your money's worth. So if you can, pay for your own treatment, because that will definitely put some fire under your ass in terms of really like following directions and doing every step like it should be done. Okay. The next point was taking control away from my eating disorder, and what I mean by that is if you're living with someone like your family, you know, your siblings, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, like whoever you're living with, they might know about your eating disorder, but I'm almost positive that they don't know all the little like triggers and all the little nuances that propel your eating disorder and the little behaviors that they should be watching for. So it's it was really important that I disclosed those, and to my boyfriend who I was living with at the time. I literally like came back from IOP, and I spelled it out for him. Like, I wrote it out on a piece of paper just because I didn't want to actually say it, but I wrote everything out on a piece of paper, like all the little things to watch for. Like, if I'm eating a bowl of ice cream in front of the TV and then I have to go pee all of a sudden, no, that's not what I'm doing. So don't let me go, because I will, you know, in that moment, I will be too weak to stand up to my eating disorder, but this other person who's removed from that experience will be able to like intervene when you need it most. So things like that. Disclosing all of my binge foods, like we can't have, you know, ice cream in the house anymore, peanut butter, or like any of that stuff. We can't have cookies in the house, and you know, the person might be kind of like hesitant and like, wait, what? Like, we just got rid of most of our pantry items and I can't have any dessert in the house. But they'll get over it really quick. Like, you gotta do what you gotta do, you know? If this person cares about you, they will listen and support you. And if they don't support you, then you gotta start questioning your relationships and you know, potentially removing yourself from that environment, because this is something that you need to do in order to drastically improve your quality of life and or, you know, save your life potentially, because all these behaviors that we do, there's no telling when something will go wrong and something will happen, and that just, you know, like, there might not be a tomorrow. It's scary, but it's true. So you gotta, you just gotta do what you gotta do, and you gotta let whoever you're living with, whoever's closest to you, know all of these little things that make up your eating disorder in order to take the power away from your eating disorder and give it to this other person that has your best interests in mind, which your eating disorder does not have your best interests in mind. Okay, so meal plan. It is essential, super essential, important to follow your meal plan, like, to the T. Like, whatever your dietitian tells you to do, you gotta do it. Because a huge part of what drives an eating disorder is the fact that your brain is starved for nutrients, and there's been tons of studies where, like, I'm sure a lot of you know that one where they took a bunch of healthy men and basically starved them and exposed them to the conditions that people with eating disorders like expose themselves to, and those men actually started thinking like a person, you know, who is sick with anorexia or bulimia. Like, everything is connected. So if you're not feeding your body, you're not feeding your brain, and your brain in turn starts like skewing everything, you know, to be kind of like off. So it's not going to be easy, trust me. Like, it's especially the first week. You're going to feel bloated. You're not going to want to eat every single one of your meals and snacks. It's going to suck, but just wear something loose. I wore a lot of dresses during that time, just like loose, flowy dresses, because that's going to happen. It's a physiological thing. It's not forever. It's really temporary. If you don't mess with your meal plan, and if you don't mess with your body, like in terms of purging or anything like that, if you stay away from those behaviors when you're first starting out on your meal plan, it's going to be a really quick process. Like, it took my body a week to stop being bloated. So a week, like, that week sucked. Not gonna lie, but it was a week. I mean, you can do it. I could do it after 7 years of not being able to do it. You can do it too. Okay. No matter what the situation is, like, if you're, you know, when I was following my meal plan, I followed a very strict, like, meal plan for 5 months, basically. No matter what you're doing, if you're like sitting at a concert with friends, have your whatever the next meal is and whatever the next snack is, like however many, you know, hours you're going to be out, that's not an excuse to skip meals and skip snacks. Like, I would take a freaking sandwich out in the middle of a concert and start eating it, and people would look at me, like my friends would look at me, and you just gotta laugh at yourself at that point, because it's like, you know, just pretend like you have an asthma attack, and you're taking your inhaler out. Like, that thing is gonna save your life, and that sandwich is gonna save your life, so just do it. Like, don't give a shit about what anybody around you thinks, and your friends are just gonna, you know, they're gonna giggle or whatever. It's like, you're taking out a sandwich right here. But you gotta do what you gotta do, and it's not forever. You're not always gonna be eating sandwiches in the middle of concerts, but for now, you have to. So it's not an excuse. Being out is not an excuse to skip meals. Just like, if you guys are serious about getting over your eating disorder, that's a big thing to keep in mind. And lastly, journaling. Journaling was huge when it came to, like, so now I've disclosed all of my eating disorder behaviors. I don't have that as a crutch because I'm being watched like a hawk. I'm eating my meal plan, and so I'm feeling bloated and uncomfortable, and that's causing me anxiety, but I can't go to my eating disorder because I'm being watched like a hawk. So journaling was the intermediary that basically, it's like I can talk to my journal whenever I need to talk to someone, and I don't necessarily want that someone to like talk back to me with, you know, whatever advice that is misinformed or they don't know my experience. My journal was an outlet for that. I'm sure it's an outlet for that for you guys too. And I had a few techniques that I came up with that were really effective at getting me to stop in my tracks when it came to like thinking about doing any sort of behaviors when I was feeling anxious. And I'll be including those in my journals that I'm designing as well. I think they're going to be super helpful for you guys. I would carry that journal with me wherever I went. That's all I got for the 4 steps for today. Have a wonderful day, and please subscribe. And the next video will be about my project. Bye guys!